All right, so the question is p squared minus 10p equals negative 16, and we're supposed to solve this. So remember, it has to look like this. It has to look like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So it has to be with a with a squared term, b with just a x, and then c a number by itself in this order, right? So we need to make this look like this before we can solve it. So I see the squared one right there, so that one's okay. So that's p squared, and there's an invisible what? 1 there. Minus, and then it says 10p with just the variable, so that's b, that's okay, so minus 10p. And then I need a plus c, which means this needs to go onto this side because it has to equal 0. So when I take this to this side, what does it become? Plus 16. And then what's left on that side? Nothing. So it always has to look like this equals 0. So even if you had a, b, c here and a number here, you'd have to move the number on the other side. Now once I have that, here's my a, here's my b, and here's my c. And you're plugging it into the formula that you know. So I'm just going to write the formula, which is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So this is what x is equal to, or in this case, what p is equal to. Okay, after that, you just put in things in the calculator. So remember, what you do is you rewrite this equation with just parentheses, right? So you're going to say minus, and then there's a variable, so parentheses, plus or minus. Then you have a variable again. So you have another parentheses squared minus 4. Then you have another variable, so parentheses. And then you have c, so another parentheses. All over. And then you have 2 parentheses. Okay, then after that, all you're going to do is just fill in the numbers, right? So first one is b. b is negative 10. b is negative 10. The next one is also b, so that's also negative 10. Next one is a. a is 1. Then the next one is c. c is 16. And then the next one is a. a is 1. Once you have that, you're just punching that entire thing in the calculator. Okay, so exactly how it is. So you go negative, and then in parentheses, negative 10, close parentheses, and we're going to do the plus first and then come back and do the minus. Square root is second and then the squared button. So remember, second and then the squared button. All right, then you have open parentheses, negative 10, close parentheses, squared, which is this button right here, squared. Okay, minus 4, open parentheses, 1, close parentheses, open parentheses, 16, close parentheses. Once you have the whole top done, you're going to press enter. So it gives you 16. And then you're going to divide it by whatever the bottom is, but the whole thing in parentheses. So the whole thing in parentheses. So divided by 2, in parentheses, I just said it. Divided by 2 times 1 in parentheses. So your first answer is 8. Okay, so your first answer, p equals 8. And then the second one is the same thing. So you're going to go up, using the up arrows, to there. Then press enter. So it'll copy it. And then you're going to go all the way outside the square root and change that plus to a minus. So outside the square root, change that plus to a minus. Press enter. Then that's the whole top, right? So you have to divide it by the bottom in parentheses, which is 2 times 1. So your second answer is 2. So p is 8 or 2. All right, solve this. Now, sometimes they don't give you an answer. They give you the simplified version of if you were doing this a long way. But I'm still just going to teach you how to do it with a calculator. So again, you have to make it look like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, so we have to make it look like this. First one with the squared. So here it is. That's 0.1 x squared. The second one with a variable. Where's the variable? It's on the other side of the equation. So I have to bring this on this side. What happens when I bring 0.2x on that side? What does it become? Negative 0.2x. And then c is on that side already, which is minus 0.5. And then once I've taken this to the other side, what's left on this side? Nothing, or 0. So that's what you have. So this is your a, this is your b, and this is your c. Okay. Again, the quadratic formula is minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And then what I want you to do is rewrite that with parentheses where you see the variables. So I go minus, I see a variable, parentheses, plus or minus, the square root. B, I see a variable, so parentheses, squared. Minus 4, I see a variable A, so parentheses, I see a variable C, so parentheses. All over 2, and I see a variable A, so parentheses. All right, so that's what your two answers are going to be equal to. Then all you do is you fill in the missing letters. So for B, I have negative 0.02. For B, again, right here, I have negative 0.2. Then next one is A is 0.1, and then C is negative 0.5, and then down here is A again, which is 0.1. Once you have this written out, all you are doing is literally just typing that in the calculator as you see it. Okay, so it goes negative, parentheses, negative 0.2, or you could say 0.2, the same thing, close parentheses. Going to do the plus first, then come back into the minus. Then to do the square root, you're going to hit second and x squared. It's going to give you square root. Parentheses, negative 0.2, close parentheses, squared, which is this one, x squared, minus 4, open parentheses, 0.1, close parentheses, open parentheses, negative 0.5, close parentheses. That's the whole top. Press enter on the top. Then you're going to divide it by the bottom in parentheses. So the bottom in parentheses is 2 times 0.1. Close your parentheses. The bottom in parentheses. So that's your first answer. So 3.44 blah, blah, blah. And then my second answer is the same thing with a minus. So I'm just going to go back up. Press enter there so it copies it down. Then you're going to go outside the square root and change that plus to a minus. So outside the square root, change the plus to a minus. Press enter. And that's the top, right? So now you're going to divide it by the bottom in parentheses, which is 2 times 0.1, which is negative 1.44, blah, blah, blah. Now, so you realize I have decimals here, right? But my answers don't have decimals. That's okay. This is this in simplified form, like they're just doing it by hand. Nobody has time to do it by hand. So I'm just going to show you how to make this look like this, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to put in each of these answers and see if they give you this. For starters, how many answers do I have? 2, right? C and D cannot be it. Why? Because they only have one answer. These have 2. So these are the ones I'm going to check. And all I have to do is put those in the calculator. So I go 1 plus the square root of 6. Enter. 3.4, is that one of my answers? Yes. Check the second one to make sure. 1 minus the square root of 6. Press enter. Was that one of my answers, negative 1.44? Yes, it was. So A is my answer. So it doesn't matter that they're doing it in simplified form. We can still use our calculator and come back. All right, factor. So again, we can still use the quadratic formula, okay? And then we're going to come back and find this. So again, I'm going to write down it in order. So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So the x squared term first, so that's going to be 8n squared. Then the one with the variable, which is minus 92n, and then the number by itself, 120, equals 0. Then I'm going to put that into the quadratic formula, which is given to you in your formula sheet, minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I want you to rewrite this with parentheses. So it goes minus parentheses plus or minus, and then the square root of parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses because of the a, parentheses because of the c, all over 2, and then parentheses because of the a. And then all you're going to do is fill in the missing numbers. So my a is that, my b is that, and my c is that. So just fill in the numbers. So the first number is b. B is negative 92. Then this is b again, so negative 92. Then 4, then a is 8. Then c is 120. Then a is 8. I'm going to punch that into the calculator. Okay, so just like you see it. Okay, so you're going to go negative, open parentheses, negative 92, close parentheses. We're going to do the plus and come back into the minus. The square root, open parentheses, negative 92, close parentheses, squared, minus 4, open parentheses, 8, close parentheses, open parentheses, 120, close parentheses. So that's my whole top. So enter equals 160, enter. Divided by my whole bottom in parentheses. My bottom is 2 times 8, close parentheses. So my first answer is 10. And then my second answer, to get my second answer, we're going to go back, press enter, and go change that plus to what? A minus outside the square root. So that becomes a minus, press enter. So that's the whole top, divide by the whole bottom, which is 2 times 8, close the parentheses, 1.5. So if you get a decimal to make it a fraction, you're going to hit, very important, hit math, this one right here, math, and then press enter twice. So enter, enter. It gives you a fraction, so 3/2. So these are my two answers. So now I have to make them look like factored form. So I have basically, what's the letter? N. So I have N is this 2. So to rewrite it as factored form, remember, this is what it is. Like you cover this up, then you solve it to get 0, right? So you're going to get N is the opposite of what you have, so negative 10, because if I do that and solve it, I move negative 10 to the other side, it becomes positive 10, right? And then N is, now this is positive, so it's going to be negative, and then it has to be, when I solve it, it becomes 3/2. So my 3 is the one that's moved over, and then divided by 2, that means a 2 has to be there. So let me solve this so I can show you, right? So 2n minus 3 equals 0. You're going to move this over, it's going to be plus 3, so you're going to have 2n equals 3, then you're going to divide by 2, so n is 3/2. So the top number is the one you're moving, the bottom number is what it goes in front of the n. So this is my two solutions. So I'm looking for something similar to this, okay? So if I look at my answers, okay, something similar to that is going to be D, okay? Now the reason there's a 4 outside, I'm just going to quickly talk about that. The reason that there's a 4 outside is this. You have 8n squared minus 92n plus 120. When you're factoring, remember when you're taking the greatest common factor, what number can I take out of all of this that's divisible? It must be I can take 4 out. So if I look, if I take 4 out, or let me break it down, right? So that's what we usually do. So 8 breaks down to 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2, right? 92 breaks down to 2 times 45, 46. 2 times 23. 23 breaks down to what is 23? I think that's it, okay. 120, 2 times 60, then 2 times 30, then 2 times 15, then 3 times 5. Okay. So what numbers are in all of them that I can take out? So there's a 2 in each of them. So I take a 2 out. Then out of the remaining numbers, okay, so let me put circles so that you don't get confused. Out of the remaining numbers, what else is common? There's also another 2, because there's a 2 here, 2 here, and a 2 here. So another 2. Okay, anything common? Is there another 2? No, there isn't. So when I take out a total of 4, I'm left with 2 here. And here I'm left with 23. And here I'm left with 2 times 3 times 5, which is 30. Okay, so now this is it simplified. So this is 4, 2n squared minus 23n plus 30. Okay, so that's where that 4 comes from. And when you solve this in the quadratic equation, you get these same numbers. That's why there's a slight difference. So technically, when you're factoring, you take out your greatest common factor out, and then you do the quadratic. But we don't need to because it's multiple choice. All right, solve this. So again, remember it has to be ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So let's rewrite it like that. The first one is the one with the squared term. Here's the river, right? So the squared term is fine. It's on the left, so that's going to be 2n squared. But I need bx, or the one with just the variable, on that side. So I take this to the other side. What's it going to become? Plus 10n. Okay, so that's gone. And I also need to take this to the other side. What does that become? Plus 7. Is there anything left on the right? No. There should be nothing left on the right. Once I have that, write down the quadratic formula. So that's minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now you're just going to rewrite this quadratic formula with parentheses where the variables are. So it goes minus, parentheses, plus or minus, square root. All right, then variables, so parentheses, squared, minus 4, then 2 variables, so 2 parentheses. All over 2, and then a variable, so parentheses. Then all you're going to do is put in your letters. So let me circle my letters. So A is 2, B is positive 10, C is 7. And we're just going to put that in. So the first one is B, so B is 10. Second one is also B, so that's 10. Next one is A, so that's 2. Next one is C, so that's 7. Next one is A, so that's 2. Once you have that, you're just punching it in the calculator exactly how you see it. So negative, open parentheses, 10, close parentheses. Then we're going to come do the positive first, then come do the negative, the minus after. So square root, which is second, square root, open parentheses, 10, close parentheses, squared, which is this button, minus 4, open parentheses, 2, close parentheses, 7, open parentheses, 7, close parentheses. So that's the whole top, divided by the bottom in parentheses, which is 2 times 2 in parentheses, all in one parentheses. So that's my first answer. So negative 8.41, blah, blah, blah. And then my second answer, you go back up to this one using the up arrow, press enter, so it repeats it. And we're just going to go back outside and change that minus. So use my arrow right outside the square root, change that plus to a minus. Press enter. So that's the whole top divided by the bottom, which in parentheses is 2 times 2. So your second answer is negative 4.15, blah, blah, blah. Now you're just going to find that in the answers, okay? So we're going to look at these answers, and we're trying to find this. So we have negative 10 plus the square root of 11, so the whole top, divided by the bottom, which is 2. Negative 3.4? No, so it's not A. All right, we'll try the next one. Negative 5 plus the square root of 39. That's the whole top, so press enter, divided by the whole bottom, which is 2. 0.62? Nope, so that's not it. So we're going to try this one. Negative 5 plus the square root of 11. That's the whole top, so enter, divided by the whole bottom, which is 2. Negative 8.4. Okay, so it could be this one, so let me check the second one. Negative 5 minus square root of 11. Press enter, divided by the bottom, which is 2. Negative 4. Yep, that's the one. So that's the answer. All right, what type of solutions does this have? So remember, to figure out how many solutions it has, you have to use the discriminant, which is part of the quadratic formula. So remember, just to remind you, the quadratic formula, I mean, by now you should really know this formula. The discriminant is just this part right here. This part, okay? That's what the discriminant is. And if it's positive, so if whatever, when you plug it in, you get a positive answer, then it has 2 real solutions. If the answer is negative, then it has 2 imaginary solutions. And then if the answer is 0, it has 1 real solution. Okay, so positive, 2 real solutions, negative, 2 imaginary, 0, 1 real. So all you got to do is, again, sort it out in the way we're supposed to. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So let's write that, the one with the squared term. So it's going to be 6t squared. The one with just the variable, which looks like it's in order for you, and the number by itself, and nothing on the other side. If there's something on the other side, I have to move it. All right, let's label what we need. So this is A, this is B. Oh, and that's the invisible one, right? So B, and that's C. Okay, and so all you need is this part of the formula. You need the square root of, and I'm going to put them in parentheses. So I have a variable, so that's parentheses squared minus 4, then 2 parentheses for the 2 variables. And depending on what you get there, if it's positive to real, negative to imaginary, 0, 1 real. So let's put in the values. B is negative 1, then A is 6, then C is negative 4. And you're just going to type that in the calculator as it appears. So square root of parentheses, negative 1, close parentheses, squared, minus 4, open parentheses, 6, close parentheses, open parentheses, negative 4, close parentheses, enter. All right, it's positive. So if it's positive, 2 real solutions. Okay, so again, if it's positive 2 real solutions, negative 2 imaginary, 0, 1 real. All right, write the quadratic function with zeros. Remember, what are zeros? There are 4 ways of saying this. Zeros are x-intercepts, they're roots. What else is it? Solutions. All mean the same thing. So if it's the x-intercept, that means this is where it intercepts the x. So it's x equals negative 1, because that's it intercepts there, or it intercepts at x equals 3. And all you have to do is go backwards, okay? So I have to write this in factored form, because remember, it's going to give you equals 0. When you cover one up, it becomes that. So to do that, you just go opposite, right? So it's going to be x. You just go opposite. So this is going to be plus 1, and this is going to be minus 3. You check it. If I cover that up, I have x plus 1 equals 0. Take the 1 to the other side, it's going to become what? Negative 1. So I'm going to have x equals negative 1. That's what I have. This one. You take this to the other side, it's going to become plus 3. So I'm going to have x equals plus 3, which is what it is. Once I have that, since I'm writing a quadratic function, so if you told me in factored form, this is what it would be, but since I'm writing a quadratic function, I have to multiply these out. So to multiply this out, I have x plus 1, and I have, what's this? X minus 3. And we're just going to multiply it out. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is 1x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Combine like terms, so you're going to have x squared. Then you have negative 3x plus x. Negatives win because I have more people. By how many? 2. So 2x. And then minus 3. So that's my quadratic function now. So a quadratic function, remember, has to be in ax squared plus bx plus c. So that's a quadratic function. That's what it is.